What's going on YouTube? Today we're going to talk about Splunk basics. And previously I have uploaded many videos about Splunk to cover all of the scenarios. Not all of the scenarios, most of the scenarios that you may face as a security analyst. Investigating ransomwares, APTs, web attacks, FTP attacks, USB attacks. You can see all of them in this playlist. If you are new to Splunk, I recommend you guys to watch Introduction to Splunk for Cybersecurity. I will put the link of this playlist in the video description. So Splunk basically, guys, as you know, it's a SIEM tool. That's it. If you watched my previous videos about Introduction to SIEM, you will have become more familiar of what is SIEM, Security Information and Event Management. So Splunk, in 2 words, it's a SIEM tool. So what's the concept of Splunk? The concept of Splunk is the same as the concept of SIEM. Collecting first, okay. After collecting, normalizing, and third, analyzing, and at the end, alerting. That's the concept of every SIEM tool available out there. They'll all work under this concept. Collecting, normalizing, analyzing, and alerting. So what they collect? They collect basically logs. So we collect logs. Collect logs from different sources, from endpoints or hosts, or from other network devices. And again, guys, I explained all of this in the latest video I published. Okay. Now, before starting Splunk, or before watching this video, if you haven't watched or if you're not familiar with SIEM, the concept of SIEM, I recommend you guys to go back to this video and watch it before going ahead with this video. Okay, so now let's talk about Splunk. So Splunk, being a SIEM tool, it collects, normalizes, analyzes, and creates alerts. Now, we also said in the previous video that the component or the stage of the stage 3, analyzing and alerting, it all depends on the configurations of the rules you put in the SIEM tool. So without configuration, without rules, analyzing and alerting, it's not going to work. You will have to do the work yourself. So automatically, the SIEM tool collects and normalizes all of the logs in one place. Okay, so you can do your search on these logs if you want to analyze manually. Okay, now let's talk about the components of Splunk. So what are the components of Splunk and how Splunk collects and analyzes logs? That's useful if you want to deploy it on a machine. So Splunk consists of 3 components. 1, we have the indexer. Okay, 2, we have the forwarder, and 3, we have the search and the search head. These are the components. Search head, I wrote search lead. I have to correct this. Okay, the search head. So let's talk about the function of every single component of these. So the indexer, or let's talk about them in other order. So first we start with the forwarder. The forwarder, guys, is the agent tool that you install on the hosts and devices from which you will collect the logs. So the forwarder will collect all the logs from the machines and devices it is installed on. So say you want to deploy Splunk, you want to work with Splunk. First, you will get the forwarder, and say you want to collect the logs from 2 machines, Linux machine and plus Windows machine. Okay, so what you will do, you will install the forwarder in Linux and in Windows. Forwarder will collect the logs from Windows and Linux. So Windows, we have Win event logs, sysmon logs, and if there are any web server installed, it will collect the web server logs. Same here with Linux. It will collect all of the logs the Linux machine may generate, and they are various: kernel logs, web server logs, the authentication logs, so on and so forth. It will collect all of these logs. Okay. Now the next component is the indexer. So what happens here? The forwarder has collected the logs. Now the indexer, it will do the, guess what? It will do the processing. So it processes the collected logs by the forwarder and stores them. So how the processing happens? All of the logs that are collected from the machines and the other network devices, they are processed and normalized. Normalized into a specific format. The format is like this. The data is normalized and processed into field value pairs. For example, IP addresses, IP field, and the actual IP address here. Ports, here are the ports. Host names, here are the host and the value of the host names. So field value. That's how it works. That's the data format Splunk uses to process the data. Okay. Now we come to the last component, which is the search head. The search head is the component that enables you to search through the processed logs. Okay. Now, without the search head, you will not be able to analyze and extract meaningful insights from the collected and analyzed data. So the search head is a very important component. All of them, they work together actually. Okay, the failure of a single component will affect the entire function of Splunk. Okay, now having become familiar with Splunk or the concept of working with Splunk, let's now go ahead and deploy the machine attached to this instance. So I'm going to deploy the machine here. Start. Okay, let's talk about now the main interface of Splunk. So that's what you will see when you first install Splunk. You will access through the IP address of your machine. If you are working on your machine, it's going to be localhost. So as you can see, this is the Splunk bar. Here we get the notifications through the messages, and here we configure the settings, the various settings in Splunk. Here the current jobs in progress, uploading data, processing data, and here's the help menu or the documentation. On the left pane, you will see the applications installed, and you can install more apps as you progress through working with Splunk by clicking on Find More Apps. Once you install an app, it will be listed on the left pane. On here, you can see how there are some shortcuts for the most used functions in Splunk, adding data, the applications, and the documentation. Now let's proceed and see what are the different methods of adding data to Splunk. So if we click on Add Data, as you can see here, we have three methods: upload, monitor, or forward. Now most of the time you will work, if you want to deploy Splunk on an enterprise level to monitor machines and network devices, you will go with the forward or with monitor. So basically with forward, you will have a basic agent file. You will install this file on the machines and devices you wish to monitor. Monitor, here you will forward all of the logs from different machines by making Splunk listening on a specific port, like it is a web server, or it is some sort of, it's going to be a server on which or by which it will receive all the logs by opening a specific port. Or if you got the data extracted from a specific machine or specific network device, and you want to specifically analyze this data, you can extract it from the source and upload it to Splunk. And that's what we will do here. We will go with this option, upload. Since we don't have any environment set up yet, to receive the logs through the forward or the monitor, we will go with upload. So by clicking on upload, we will start uploading the data. So right now we are taking the role of the forwarder. We collected the data, and right now we want to upload the data so that the indexer will process the data. Select file. The file that you will find in this machine, guys, is located under rooms, Splunk basic, VPN logs. So next, okay, here we set the source type. So we select which is the source of these data. We can select it from here. Application, database, email, structured. As you can see, when we uploaded the file, Splunk has automatically detected the type of data, and it is telling you it is JSON. So if it is automatically detected, leave it as is and proceed. Next, here we define the host name. So the host field value, normally it is the host name of the machine or the device from which you have extracted the logs, and of course imported the logs to Splunk. So normally we put here the name of the machine, but since we don't know the name of the machine yet, we don't have information about the source, we're going to say VPN connection. The index, here we create the index. Okay, the index is very important because the index, it is the by which we will use the index to search in Splunk. Okay, so it's very important to create an index and give it a meaningful name. We will use that index in the search. So let's say it is VPN underscore logs. Once it's created, we're gonna have to select it from here, and we go to review. Here we review all of the information we have selected in the process, and we click on submit. Once submitted, we have a couple options. We can build dashboard, okay, which you will do in a later stage of working with Splunk, or we can immediately start analyzing. Now, the scenario of analyzing the logs yourself most probably is when you have an incident, okay, and you want to analyze the related logs or the logs collected about the incident. You want to have more insights about what happened, what kind of incident, and you want to investigate more. So we will start searching immediately. Okay, then now you come to the stage of analyzing the data. Now, working with the logs, the search here, there are specific syntaxes we have to understand as part of the Splunk search processing language. So basically, you can on the internet there are many cheat sheets about how to use the syntaxes. For me, if I have created one node file, this node file has operational notes about Splunk. For example, how to parse HTTP traffic, how to search HTTP traffic, how to analyze network traffic. Here, Sysmon events, Fortinet firewall logs, USB attacks, basically for various scenarios. Now, this file doesn't serve as a cheat sheet to teach you how to use the basic syntaxes. I will add the basic syntaxes to this file, but this file is operational file. It will help you to analyze scenarios. Okay, Linux event, OS query events, detecting for example print nightmare vulnerability, Win event logs, or Office 365, semantic endpoint protection events. It's scenario based. Okay, it's scenario based, but by understanding these scenarios, you will be able to eventually understand how to use the Splunk search processing language. Okay, let's go back. So as you can see, when I start searching, this command is by default written, and it specifies the current syntax. So basically, as you can see, the source is the file I have uploaded, the host name is the host name I specified, the index I have configured, and the source type. Now, this syntax is very necessary and important. With every single syntax, you will write during the analysis phase. So say for example you want to work with the filters or the fields on the left. The fields on the left help you tremendously in narrowing down your search. So let's take a scenario here. In the questions we have, the first question, upload the data attached to this task and create an index VPN_logs. How many events are present in the log file? That's the first question. So the number of events, as you can see here, is displayed on the left. We have 2,862 events, total events that are witnessed or processed under the file we uploaded. That's the number of events. The next question we have, how many log events by the user Melina are captured? Right now, as I said earlier, we can work with this Splunk processing language to search through the events, or you can get assistance by the fields on the left. So we want to find out the number of events, okay, related to a specific user. Let's look at the left. See if any field can indicate or can help us search based on the users. As you can see, we have a username field here, username. As you can see here, we have all the usernames that are witnessed in this log file. We have Simon, James, and we have Melina. As you can see on the right, we have the count of the events for every single one of these users. So Melina, it has 60 users. As you can see, using the fields on the left, I found out the answer without using the search. But it doesn't mean that you will be able to fit all the scenarios based on the interesting fields here on the left. Sometimes you will need to play with the search syntax. But for now, this is an intro video and we will stick with the basics. So we have 6 events. What's the name associated with the IP address? Let's copy the IP address, okay, and let's see if any field here, again, that can help us filter by the IP address. We have one, source IP. But as you can see, we have more than 100 IP addresses. It's gonna be overwhelming searching so every single one of these IP addresses. Okay, we have one IP address and we want to find out the name or the username associated with this IP address. So more than 100 IP address and we have 51 single username. So the fields on the left kinda will not help us pretty much in this task. So what we're going to do, we copied the IP address. Okay, we will paste the IP address here. So pasting the IP address, it will search of the logs for all the occurrences of this IP address. I will leave the syntax here as is because it's very basic. Search. As you can see, we have 26 events where this IP address is mentioned. So how do I find out what name is associated with this IP address? You're not going to go through all of these logs, right? Because it's not practical, and sometimes you will get more than 26 events. You're not going to spend your time finding out what's the name. Although in this scenario we are dealing with, you can. So as you can see, you have the username Smith. For all the logs, we have username Smith, and we have Smith. But say that the suppose that event number here is more than 26. Say it's 76 or 100. Are you gonna go through all of these logs here like that? No, you have to use the filters. So basically, right now we put the IP address. Let's see on the left side. Before we play with the syntax again, let's go to the left side and see the username field. Let's see how many usernames we have associated with the IP address. As you can see, if you look at the field here, username, we have only one, and the count indeed is 26, which means all of the logs here, all of the events we have with this IP address, they are associated with the username Smith. So that's the name associated with this IP address, and that answers this question. Next, what's the number of events that originated from all countries except France? Okay, let's get back and let's remove or reset the search. So back we have 2862. Let's go to the left and find if there is a field for the countries. Source country. As you can see, for every single country we have the number of events. Now, how can you find out the total number of events except France? Yeah, you can add these together and accept and exclude France, but that is not practical, as I said before. Let's now rely on the search syntax. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to use not. Not is a logical operator in the search processing language, which means I want to exclude a value. The value I want to exclude here is the country name France. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to type the name of the field, source country, it's written, and specify the value to be France. That's the value I want to exclude, okay, from all of the events under this file. So when I click search, as you can see, I have 2814. These are the number of events, okay, associated with all countries except France. So 2814, and that's the answer for this question. How many VPN events were observed by the IP? Let's copy the IP. Let's see how many events observed by this IP address. Let's reset the search and go to IPs. Okay, more than 100 plus IP address. Okay, we can search here. Since we have top 10 values, we can search it. The IP address we want is, as you can see, it ends with 58. Let's see if we have IP ends with 58 here. 58. No, there is no. So we have to search, use the search criteria here, the search syntax. Okay, so let's define this the field. The field is source IP, or you can paste the IP address immediately. So we have 14 events. Alternatively, you can use the field itself, source underscore IP. It is the recommended method actually to use the fields along with the values, and we get the same answer, 14. That answers the other question. So this covers the task part. Now these are the basics, guys. All you have to do here is to just become familiar with the Splunk processing language, learning how to search through the events, and eventually you will be able to deal with more complicated scenarios. I hope you like that, and I will see you in the next video.